Welcome to Goat Duels. I am here with Marcial Bode. He got top 8 in Grand Prix Orlando. Pretty big tournament, right? I think the turnout was bigger than people were expecting. As far as the deck that you used, most of the choices are pretty standard, but I definitely think there's some stuff still worth talking about. Did you know far ahead of time that you were going to play Chaos, or were you not sure what you wanted to play before the event?
I was pretty sure I wanted to play Chaos. I think it has the highest ceiling, and it's just when you get the card advantage, you can plus so much, and I just think it's still the best deck around. But the main reason I played it is because I'm just comfortable with it. Ever since I started back playing goats, like I think it's been like 6 months now. That's the first deck profile I loaded and started to learn with, and I like it. So I've always played it. But when you play in a big event like this, especially with 76 people, you've got to play with what you're most comfortable with and what you think you can get the furthest with. That was the main reason why I decided to play Turbo.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good reason to play a deck, and I think most of my viewers probably won't know this, but you are actually a pretty prominent old school player. I mean, I remember you from 2006, 2007, 2005 as well. Did you actually top any regionals or shonen jumps in GOAT format back in the day?
Yes, actually, I've won, I think it was like five regionals during Gold Format. I've won a lot of tournaments when it came to regionals. I didn't top at any shoulder jumps. I only went to two in my life. One I topped, which was right after Gold Format, the August 2005 YCS in Atlanta. Right after Gold Format, it was the first
Mm-hmm.
tournament after the meta changed. And I think I went to one more, but I can't remember. I think it was Chicago. And it was before Gold Format. And that's it. Those are the only two I went to. I quit a little bit after that regional, and then I came back for a few months, I believe in 2012, and now I'm actually back active. The most I've been since 2004.
Well, that's good. I mean, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if you do well at even more events in the future. You definitely have a pretty long track record. So, talking about some of the card choices, I noticed you're playing one Night Assailant, one Spirit Reaper, and a few months ago you would have just
Hmm.
seen most people playing just two Night Assailant, no Spirit Reaper. But I think the way that you went is going to be more popular getting forward. I see that one Night Assailant is a lot more common. People's mentality on Night Assailant is starting to change in that people realize it's kind of a situational card in a sense. Would you agree? Why'd you decide to go with one Night Assailant, one Spirit Reaper?
So that's one of the main reasons. My biggest concern was actually going to be Warriors. I think Warriors is super prominent. Warriors is a super strong deck, and very hard to beat in a chaos matchup, especially game one. I think the Spirit Reaper was a good call because of Warriors, and Spirit Reaper was actually the MVP of the entire tournament for me. That and together with side decking properly, one of the main key points of the event for me was, the Spirit Reaper helped a lot because he needs to be dealt with. Setting him is awesome. He can get, beta for noblemen and keep your spies, in check. You want to make sure that your spies flip and they become active because as a turbo player, you want to have turns. As more turns you can get, as further you get into your deck, as more likely you are to win. Even against warriors, you want to slow them down. And Spirit Reaper is a key card in slowing down warriors. And also, like you were saying, the one Night Assailant. I don't think two are needed. I was expecting more turbo than I've seen, and I just think Night Assailant, even with the Regeki break, it's not something that comes up often. I was almost thinking about cutting the Nelson completely and running two Reapers. But just the effect that Nathason has with Rageki Break and the synergy with Graceful Charity was still, good enough for me to run one. But I was thinking of cutting the other Nathason as well for a second Spirit Reaper, and I've tested it. But in the end, I went and chose to play the one Night Assailant, which did help me in the event several times throughout the tournament.
Yeah, I definitely think the consensus is that Spirit Reaper is a much better card against Warriors, in particular, than Night Assailant is. Some people are maybe starting to shy away from Chaos because of the Warrior matchup, but you seem to have a good grasp of that. How many Warrior decks did you play, and why do you think you did well against warriors?
I actually played four warrior decks, believe it or not,
Oh
and
my
I played
god.
zero mirrors. I played zero mirrors. The mind controls did not came in one time in the entire tournament. I played um, I played round one against Warriors, and it was a close match. I ended up winning by I think the big difference is when you play in an event such as a GGP is that the IRL tournaments is just you can do a lot of psychology, the way your opponent thinks, the way they move certain cards, the way they breathe sometimes even, or the way their facial expressions. You can learn a lot out of a player game one and kind of see how they're going to set cards, how they're going to play, how they react to certain situations. And I think that gave me an edge. I believe that Warriors is just very fast, and if you can't catch up, and if you let them, noblemen your spies, and then hit you too many times too quickly, and you can't respond, you pretty much lost the game if you fall behind. And I really thought about, switching to Warriors lately, but as you've seen a lot lately, Turbo players have been switching into the kind of like chaos control version.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that I really like, but it still doesn't give you that edge game one, and Warriors is still just really hard to beat, and it's just a very hard matchup. And that's one of the reasons I also decided to play the Book of Moon and have it in there as more defense for my Spirit Reaper and flipping my spy back down. But I ended up winning all the matches besides one. I lost to Michael Lux. Very,
Ah.
very close. Round four. We were both 3-0. He had no cards in hand. I had nothing in hand. He had Tribe on the field, and I had a Dekochi. And he said to me off the top of his deck, Norman across out. And he drew the Nobleman, and then he got me for game. It was a very close match. The other three Warrior matchups I won. One was against Fitzgerald, who actually won the tournament. Then somebody else who didn't know, and then another person that I've never played before. But yeah, definitely Warriors is out there even more than Chaos, I think, right now. And people still think that Chaos is taking over, but I think Warriors actually is over the last few tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, going 3-1 against Warriors, though, is still pretty good. I mean, Michael Lux, we both know, obviously a great player. Lukaz,
Yeah.
who won the tournament, great player. I don't think you had an easy bracket. It sounds like, from what you're saying, kind of a lot of the edge that you had over the field was your live tournament experience and your in-game reads. Do you want to, like, sort of elaborate on that? Do you have, like, any cool stories of how you, like, Jedi mind tricked someone into revealing what they had?
Yeah. Actually, against when I played against Danny Fitzgerald, I noticed that before when he starts playing, he will have one leg over his other leg and kind of just lean back and draw his cards. And then when he would be more nervous, he would let go of it, lean forward, and then put his hand on his chin and sit backwards to the right. And then always would use his left hand and just tap his fingers like this back and forth.
Huh.
That's when he was in a position of when he would think a lot. And the key point he actually asked while we were playing, he had four cards set, but the first card he set was a card that was there the entire match. And when I flipped my spy to attack for 24, he debated and thought about it. He said, give me a minute. And he thought about it. And he actually didn't end up using the card and had a really big read. It was Torrential Tribute. And as we went back and forth, he drew cards and then just, set him. And then there was a point where I had a Raigeki break and MST set, and he had four back rolls. And I knew
Mm.
two of them were going to be a bluff because he just drew them and just set them and leaned backwards in that nervous state that I noticed game one and two. So I was like, okay, I need to pick two of these cards to kill. That way I can go for game. Because if not, one of them might be Solomon. That was still risky. So I ended up MSTing the oldest one, which was Torrential Tribute. And then I Raigeki broke the second oldest one. And then I summoned an attack for game. And then he asked me why did I pick those two cards. And then I told him the reasons why. And the other two cards were Nobleman and Mind Control, which were bluffs. And that gave me the game three, we were top decking. So it was a very close match. Dude is a super good player. I mean, definitely very hard to beat, and I definitely think he's going to be the player of the year
Oh
because of
yeah,
his
for sure.
consistency and his just. And he ended up winning, and I told him as well. I was like, "You're gonna go X2, you're gonna win the entire tournament," and then he ended up winning it, which is unbelievable. Props to him for that. Another key point that gave me a couple of matches was the Mystic Walks as in sitting where the clock is. So as soon as I would stay close to, where the pairings are, and then I would, grab the seat right away so I could sit, facing the clock and
Yeah.
getting close to the third match. I would put in the walks and the Sakuretsu swords were really light. And one of the matches, it came down to, time into side decking into time. So my opponent, took his time side decking, and I told him, take your time. You only had 3 minutes, but he said, I still have a minute, still have a minute. So just take your time side decking. We're playing here, we're having a good time. Key point is we need to have a good time. That's what we're here. So I took his time, and then we went 0, 1, 2, 3, and I ended up drawing all traps in a kaiku, and I just summoned it. I said all four. I said, if he has Heavy Storm, he wins. If he doesn't, I will end phase Mystic Walk and go for the game. And he tried to attack. I used all my traps, and then on the third turn, on end phase, I Mystic Walked, and then I won the game like that. So that was one of the best matches. And then also the burn matchup. I lost to my teammate Dylan in the last match, and then in the top eight. Very, very close matches. I was, thinking I was very prepared for him for the burn matchup. We played several times the night before and tested. Mobius, the King Tiger, and then the Mystic Walks came in, but I just couldn't draw the right cards to beat him. And he's a very skillful burn player. And ended up, he just ended up getting me one key element at the last turn. I had a faith set that I set for 2 turns, and I debated on flipping it, and I should have flipped them. My gut told me flip this faith and grab this Book of Moon before he ends up getting a ring for game, even though he was top picking. And he did have the ring for game that he drew and set, and I flipped the faith 2 turns too late, and it cost me the game, and that was in the top 8. You have to just sometimes, it's not your day, and one mistake can cost you the game in this kind of game, and that's what ended up happening to me. But still a great tournament. I'm very proud of how far I made it.
Before I let you go, I guess I was just going to ask you about the side deck. I know from talking with you, you were very proud of the side deck that you built. Walk us through these side deck choices, given the meta that you expected.
So the Mystic Walks were there for burn, of course, also for time. In game 3, if it was less than 5 minutes, I would definitely put in the walks. Sometimes depending on the matchup, even earlier. I wanted to be prepared for pretty much everything because Turbo has a hard time with Chaos Control and Warriors. Game 2, I pretty much always took out most of my flips besides Spy. I even took out the Faith and put in a Sora and King Tiger. Just if I'm going second, I want to, put in pressure. I don't want to set cards. I want to make those Noblemans and Mind Controls dead. Mobius was mostly for burn, but also for Warriors. Kaikus came in pretty much all the time for the Kochis. Zombiras I swapped for Warriors. Sword Priest and King Tiger were for control. Swords was for Warriors and also for time. Mind Controls I didn't see once because I didn't play a single Turbo matchup. I played a couple of Relinquish Chaos, which is an awesome deck as well, and that I really liked and considered about playing as well. But they never came in, so they're pretty much just there. And then the Sakuretsu armors, of course, for Warriors and for definitely helped me a lot. I put it in almost every match and swapped the dash shoots out.
Thanks again for coming on the channel. Take care.